Bible in a Year, Day 81, Judges 1 through 3. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites consulted the Lord, asking, "Who shall be first among us to attack the Canaanites and to do battle with them?" The Lord answered, "Judah shall attack. I have delivered the land into his power." Judah then said to his brother Simeon, "Come up with me into the territory allotted to me, and let us do battle with the Canaanites. I will likewise go with you into the territory allotted to you." So Simeon went with him. When Judah attacked, the Lord delivered the Canaanites and Perizzites into their power, and they struck down 10,000 of them at Bezek. They came upon Adonibezek in Bezek and fought against him. When they struck down the Canaanites and Perizzites, Adonibezek fled. They pursued him, and when they caught him, they cut off his thumbs and big toes. 70 kings, said Adonibezek, used to pick up scraps under my table with their thumbs and big toes cut off, and I have done. So has God repaid me. He was brought to Jerusalem, and he died there. The Judahites fought against Jerusalem, captured it, and put it to the sword, setting the city itself on fire. Afterwards, the Judahites went down to fight against the Canaanites who lived in the mountain region, in the Negev, and in the foothills. Judah also marched against the Canaanites who lived in Hebron, which was formerly called Kiriath Arba, and defeated Shani, Ahiman, and Talmai. They marched from there against the inhabitants of Debir, which was formerly called Kiriath Sefer. Caleb said, "To the man who attacks Kiriath Sefer and captures it, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage." Othniel captured it, the son of Caleb's brother Kenaz. So Caleb gave him his daughter Aksah in marriage. When she came to him, she induced him to ask her father for some land. Then, as she alighted from the donkey, Caleb asked her, "What do you want?" She answered, "Give me a present, since you have put me in the land of the Negeb. Give me pools of water." So Caleb gave her what she wanted, both the upper and the lower pool. The descendants of Hohab the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, came up to the Judahites from the city of palms to the wilderness of Arad, which is in the Negeb, and they settled among the Amalekites. Then Judah went with his brother Simeon, and they defeated the Canaanites who lived in Zephath. They put the city under the ban and renamed it Hormah. Judah captured Gaza with its territory, Ashkelon with its territory, Ekron with its territory, and Ashdod with its territory. The Lord was with Judah, so they gained possession of the mountain region, but they could not dispossess those who lived on the plain because they had iron chariots. As Moses had commanded, they gave Hebron to Caleb, who then drove the 3 sons of Anak away from there. As for the Jebusites dwelling in Jerusalem, the Benjamites did not dispossess them, so the Jebusites lived there with the Benjamites in Jerusalem to this present day. The house of Joseph too went up against Bethel, and the Lord was with them. The house of Joseph reconnoitered Bethel, which was formerly called Luz. The scouts saw a man coming out of the city and said to him, "Tell us the way into the city, and we will show you mercy." He showed them the way into the city, and they put the city to the sword, but they let the man and his whole clan go free. The man then went into the land of the Hittites, where he built a city and called it Luz, which is its name to this day. Manasseh did not take possession of Beth Shean with its towns, or Tanakh with its towns, nor did they dispossess the inhabitants of Dor and its towns, those of Ibleam and its towns, or those of Megiddo and its towns. The Canaanites continued to live in this district. When Israel grew stronger, they conscripted the Canaanites as laborers, but did not actually drive them out. Ephraim did not drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer, and so the Canaanites lived among them in Gezer. Nor did Zebulun dispossess the inhabitants of Kitron or those of Nahalol. The Canaanites lived among them and became forced laborers. Nor did Asher dispossess the inhabitants of Akko or those of Sidon to take possession of Mahaleb, Akzib, Helba, Afik, or Rehob. So the Asherites settled among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, for they had not dispossessed them. Nor did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Bethshemesh or those of Bethanath. They settled among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, and the inhabitants of Bethshemesh and Bethanath became forced laborers for them. The Amorites hemmed in the Danites in the mountain region, not permitting them to come down onto the plain. So the Amorites continued to live in Har Heres, Ajalon, and Salbim. But as the power of the house of Joseph grew, they were conscripted as laborers. The territory of the Amorites extended from the Akrabim Pass, from Selah and upward. A messenger of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up from Egypt and led you into the land which I promised on oath to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, but you must not make a covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You must pull down their altars, but you did not listen to me. Look what you have done. For I also said, I will not clear them out of your way. They will become traps for you, and their gods a snare for you. When the messenger of the Lord had spoken these things to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud. They named that place Bochim, and they offered sacrifice there to the Lord. Then Joshua dismissed the people, and the Israelites went, each to their own heritage, to take possession of the land. The people served the Lord during the entire lifetime of Joshua and of those elders who outlived Joshua and who had seen all the great work the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him within the borders of his heritage at Timnath Heres in the mountain region of Ephraim, north of the Mount Gash. When the rest of the generation were also gathered to their ancestors, and a later generation arose that did not know the Lord or work he had done for Israel, the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. They served the Baals and abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors. The one who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. They followed other gods, the gods of the peoples around them, and bowed down to them and provoked the Lord, because they had abandoned the Lord and served Baal and the Ashtoreth. The anger of the Lord flared up against Israel, and he delivered them into the power of plunderers who despoiled them. He sold them into the power of the enemies around them, and they were no longer able to withstand their enemies. Whenever they marched out, the hand of the Lord turned against them, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn to them. Then they were in great distress, but the Lord raised up judges to save them from the power of the plunderers. But they did not listen to their judges either, for they prostituted themselves by following other gods, bowing down to them. They were quick to stray from the way their ancestors had taken, who obeyed the commandments of the Lord, but these did not. When the Lord raised up judges for them, he would be with the judge and save them from the power of their enemies as long as the judge lived. The Lord would change his mind when they groaned in their affliction under their oppressors, but when the judge died, they would again do worse than their ancestors, following other gods, serving and bowing down to them, relinquishing none of their evil practices or stubborn ways. The anger of the Lord flared up against Israel, and he said, because this nation has transgressed my covenant, which I enjoined on their ancestors, and has not listened to me, I for my part will not clear away them any more of all the nations Joshua left when he died. They will be made to test Israel to see whether or not they will keep the way of the Lord and continue in it as their ancestors did. Therefore, the Lord allowed these nations to remain. Instead of expelling them immediately, he had not delivered them into the power of Joshua.